Today I will be showing you how to create your own recipe and how to use Soapcalc. Good day everyone. Welcome back to Humbled Nature, where we spread the goodness of Christ and make handcrafted bath and body. If you like this type of content, please be sure to subscribe and join the family. Today I will be showing you how to create your own recipe and how to use Soapcalc. Let me just mention this. If you like getting recipes online, that is perfectly fine, but make sure you run them through a soap calculator first before you use the recipes, because some of the recipes online, they might have errors in them or they actually haven't been tested out before. So just be sure you run it through a soap calculator first. Now, let's get it started. In the previous video, I explained how you calculate the total amount of oil that you need for your mold. If you haven't watched that, please go back and watch that one. So today, the total amount of oil that we'll be using is 29.4 ounces. I should mention that it is ounces. We're not using grams today. I am making cold processed soap, so the water concentration is 33%. If you are a beginner, I would suggest you start at 33%, because if you go any lower than that, your soap might get hard on you very quickly before you know how to handle it and put it in the mold. So you want to start with 33%. The super fat in this recipe, we're going to leave it at 5%. That is the standard percentage, but personally I put it at 8 because I have really dry skin, so I prefer a soap that is not drying out at all. But then superfat also depends on the oils that you're using. For example, if you're using coconut oil is really drying, so you might need a higher percentage, whilst other oils are not as drying, such as olive oil, palm oil, and so on. Well, in this recipe, we're leaving it at 5%. We are going to use Soapcalc to answer questions such as how much water do we need, how much lye do we need, that is the sodium hydroxide, how much percentage of each oils do you need, your castor oil, your coconut oil, olive oil, or palm oil. So I'm heading over to Google and searching in Soapcalc. There are other soap calculators, but this is the one that I learned how to use and I've always stuck with it. So this is what it looks like from a glance. At the top we have number 1 over there, and it shows us that we have sodium hydroxide and sodium potassium, but that is for making liquid soap. So the first option is sodium hydroxide. That is the one that we use for making cold processed soap or hot processed soap. The next part requires us to enter the total amount of oils that we calculated using the previous videos. In this case, I am using ounces, and it was a total of 29.4 ounces. So we leave that there and enter that. As I mentioned before, if you're starting to make soap, please leave your water percentage of oils at 33%. 38% is the standard set, but it is for hot processed soap, not for cold processed soap. That would be too much water in your soap if you're making cold processed, so just put it at 33%. The more you make soap, the more you get to understand that working with water to lye ratio makes more sense, but that is for a later part when you're now more advanced. As you can see above, there's a 0.5 ounce of fragrances, but I always put my fragrance to 0 because I use a different calculator for that. And the standard set percentage for super fat is 5%, so I am just going to leave it as it is. So down here we have a list of oils, fats, and waxes. It is a huge list. And on the side here, you click on any oil that you want and you can see the properties of the oil that it will contribute to your soap. So here, for example, the avocado oil, we can see that it has this much amount of hardness, that much amount of cleansing, conditioning, the bubbles that it will give to your soap, the creaminess, and iodine, you name it. It'll explain everything, every property that is found in the oil that you decide to use in your soap. For this recipe, I am going to add castor oil. So you just click on the castor oil. Again, you can see the properties that it will add to your oil, and you just add it to the list. And the next oil that I'm going to use is coconut oil, and I add it to the list. I am going to search for olive oil as well, add it to the list. And the last one is palm oil. So this is almost like a standard recipe for most soap makers, except that this one contains castor oil. Most soapers, beginners, they start with coconut oil, olive oil, and palm oil. But I love castor oil because it just adds an extra bubble to the soap that I really love. So I added it to this recipe. It's kind of obvious, but I just have to mention it that your total percentage of oils has to add up to 100%. I just had to mention that. So on the side there, you can see the ounces of each oil that you will need in this recipe. Once you have that, you go down and click on print recipe. The next page shows the full properties and recipe of your soap. The first part there at the top, it is based on the information that we entered on the previous page. The section right next to it, it shows the saturated and unsaturated ratio. Basically what it's saying is if you use a lot of butters in your soap, like shea butter, cocoa butter, you will have a higher ratio of saturation. That is, you will not be able to do a lot of designs with your soap because it is going to reach thick trace very quickly. But if you're using lighter oils like coconut oil, olive oil, your soap will take time to reach trace because these oils are unsaturated. So yeah, this is for later on when you're now working on creating designs, which we will cover in a much different video. Down here is the iodine value, and what it tries to do is reflect the chances of your soap developing DOS. Here is a picture showing what DOS is. These are just dreaded orange spots on your soap. They do not harm anything, but they might affect the look of your soap. This next part shows the total amount of water that you need for your soap and the total amount of sodium hydroxide. That is the lye. Please, 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 if you make any changes whatsoever, for example, if you take away 5% of your castor oil and add it to your palm oil, please be sure to enter this afresh in Soapcalc. I cannot stress this enough because sodium hydroxide, it is based on the sap value of your oils. So you cannot just swap one oil for the other and not run it through a soap calculator. You need to do this. I cannot stress it enough again. Please make sure you run it through a soap calculator again and again. Down here, we now have the total ounces or grams of oils that you need to add of each oil, and this makes it so much easier. This last part shows you the quality of your final soap. It is just an estimation, so some of these figures may not be a true reflection of what the soap will actually come out as. As you can see, the hardness here is 38 Mostly, I like my hardness to be between 40 and 45. The cleansing, personally, I keep it below 10 because I have very dry skin. The higher the cleansing value, the more drying the soap would be. So this is ideal for people with oily skin, but for people with dry skin, I recommend that you keep the cleansing value very low, or you increase the super fat value so that you have extra oil just floating around in your soap, and it'll prevent it from drying out your skin. I am going to link down in the description box a website that gives a better explanation of all these words so you understand what they are and the properties that they provide in your soap. This is the end of this video. Please leave a comment down in the comment section below and share your thoughts in regards to soap making. If you like this content, please join this family by clicking the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Have a blessed and wonderful day.